The weathered wooden cross stood silent in the Colorado forest, its edges softened by snow and time. Kneeling before it, Dr. Emma Henderson traced the carved names with trembling fingers: Hope and Scout, mother and son, heroes both. Love never truly dies. She pressed a worn leather collar to her chest, the one Hope had worn all those years, and let her tears fall without apology. The forest around her remained hushed, as if honoring a sacred ritual. The air carried the scent of pine needles and memory. 24 years had passed, but this place, the place where a wounded mother had made an unthinkable choice, had never left her. It had etched itself into her bones, into the rhythm of her breath. She was only 8 when it happened, just a child, and yet the decisions she made that summer had shaped every footstep since. In her pocket was a frayed scrap of purple wool, the last piece of the sweater she'd worn that day. It had once been a symbol of childhood, then of survival. Now it was a talisman, or a chain. Emma didn't know anymore. She had spent the last decade building a prestigious veterinary practice in Denver, known for her work with trauma cases. To the world, she was accomplished. But inside, she still lived in that forest, still searching those amber eyes for guidance. Her phone buzzed. Again. She didn't need to check who it was. "Still at that grave, aren't you?" came her mother's voice, sharp with concern. Emma closed her eyes. "It's not just a grave, Mom. It's where everything began. You have a career, Emma, and offered a partner in one of the best clinics in the city. You can't live in the past forever." But the past wasn't some shadow she was fleeing from. It was a promise she'd been trying to keep. She stared at the cross, its simplicity humbling. In that wood she saw not death, but devotion, sacrifice and trust so pure it still made her chest ache. Maybe she wasn't stuck. Maybe she was circling something sacred. She knelt again. "Am I honoring you by being here?" she whispered. "Or am I just afraid to leave?" The forest gave no reply, only the hush of wind through ancient branches. A sudden movement at the tree line caught her eye, a German shepherd, black and tan, emerging with cautious grace. For a breathless moment Emma's heart clenched, the tilt of its head, the set of its shoulders so achingly familiar. But this one was young, healthy Collard. Not Hope, not Scout, just a stranger, passing through the woods. Still her hands trembled. She watched as the dog sniffed the air, glanced her way, then turned and vanished into the trees. Even now, 24 years later, her first instinct was to look for them in every shepherd she saw. Her therapist called it complicated grief, but Emma knew it was more than that. Hope had not been just a dog. She had been a sentinel, a teacher, a mirror. She had shown Emma who she truly was, who she could be. The silence of the forest thickened as another figure approached, this one older, but no less familiar. "Figured I'd find you here," came Grandma Rose's voice, breathless but strong. Emma turned. Her grandmother's presence was like a balm-solid grounding. Together they sat on the bench beside the grave, surrounded by pine and memory. Rose didn't ask questions. She never did. Instead, she simply said, "You're thinking about that clinic." Emma nodded, eyes still on the marker. "There's a part of me that thinks I'm just clinging to ghosts." Rose's smile was patient. "And there's another part that knows this isn't about ghosts. It's about legacy." The wind stirred the trees above them, whispering secrets neither woman could name. Emma didn't speak. She only reached into her coat, pulled out the purple fabric one last time, and laid it gently across the stone. A shiver passed through her, not from the cold, but from something deeper. Not a sign, but maybe a beginning. The creek behind Grandma Rose's cabin had always sung to her. That day, it was louder, wilder, somehow. 8-year-old Emma moved along its edge, hopping from stone to stone, pretending she was an explorer, discovering forgotten lands. It wasn't mischief that led her off the trail that morning. It was something deeper, unnamed. A pull like a thread tugging at her chest. Then she heard it. A low, ragged sound, half growl, half whimper, rising above the rush of water. Emma froze. Carefully, she parted the tall grass near a bend in the creek. And there, in a clearing ringed with wildflowers and boulders, stood a German shepherd. Her fur, once regal, was matted with dirt and dried blood. One paw, her front left, was clamped in a rusted steel-jawed trap. The sight made Emma's stomach flip. The dog didn't growl. She didn't bare her teeth. She simply looked at Emma with eyes the color of honeyed amber, worn and weary, but still burning with something fierce. Dignity, maybe, or duty. Her body trembled with effort, but she stood as if guarding something. And then Emma heard it, a second sound, small, helpless, almost lost in the wind. A whimper. From behind a fallen log, a puppy emerged, all bones and stumbling limbs. He couldn't have been more than 6 weeks old. His ribs showed his coat was patchy, but when he saw his mother, he tried to run to her, falling over his own paws. The German shepherd turned toward him, and something inside Emma broke. The pain vanished from the dog's face. Her head lowered, tongue rasping gently across the pup's eyes, ears, nose. Her tail gave the faintest wag, and then stiffened in agony. But she didn't stop. The way she nuzzled him, it was reverent, fierce, final. Emma stood there crying and didn't know why. She took a step forward, and the dog's gaze snapped back to her. Not hostile, not afraid, measuring, deciding. Then it happened, something that would define Emma's entire life. The mother bent down, took her puppy gently by the scruff, and limped forward. Every step was pain. But still she came. She placed her pup at Emma's feet. And then the dog looked up and wept. Not a whine, not a whimper, but real tears streaming down the German shepherd's dirt-caked cheeks, cutting silent tracks through dust and dried blood. Emma gasped. Her tiny hands trembled. She'd never seen a dog cry before, but somehow she knew what it meant. Please, those amber eyes said. Please save him. I can't go any further. Emma looked at the puppy, who wobbled uncertainly between them, torn between instinct and confusion. The mother gave a soft growl, not anger, but command. The kind that says, stay. Trust her now. Then her legs gave out. She collapsed onto her side, the trapped paw jutting at an unnatural angle, wrapped in rusted iron and dark blood. Her breath came in short, shallow gasps, but she kept her gaze fixed on Emma. And Emma changed. In that moment, she was no longer a child playing in the woods. She was a witness, a protector. Something fierce and adult awakened in her, something irrevocable. I'll help your mama too, she whispered to the puppy, blinking back tears. I promise. I'm not leaving her. She scooped him into her arms. He was barely more than fur and bones, his heartbeat fluttering against her chest like a bird. But as she held him, he went still. His small eyes found hers, and they stayed locked, as if some ancient understanding passed between them. The mother wagged her tail again, weak, trembling, but real. Emma set the puppy gently on the ground, then stepped toward the trap. The metal glinted like a predator's grin. Her hands hovered over it, recalling what Grandma Rose had taught her. Squeeze the springs together, at once, to release the jaws. She crouched beside the dog. This is going to hurt, she said, voice barely above a whisper. But then it'll be better. My grandma can help you. Just be brave for one more minute. The German shepherd looked at her unflinching. Emma pressed her small palms to the frozen metal, braced her knees in the dirt, and pushed. The jaws sprang open with a terrible snap, and the dog cried out in agony. But her paw was free. Blood seeped from the mangled paw, soaking the earth beneath them. Emma gagged at the smell, raw, metallic, and sickly sweet with infection. She forced herself not to look away. The dog's body trembled, her breaths shallow and fast, but her eyes stayed locked on Emma's, full of gratitude and unbearable pain. Emma knew she couldn't carry them both. The mother was too big to hurt, and the puppy needed help now. She had to make a choice no 8-year-old should ever have to make. She made it without hesitation. Shrugging off her purple sweater, the one her mother had knitted for Christmas, she wrapped it around the bleeding paw. Her hands were clumsy, but careful. "This'll help," she murmured, unsure if she believed it, but needing to say something. Like in the movies. The German shepherd didn't flinch. She only watched. "I have to go now," Emma said, standing with the puppy clutched to her chest. "I'll run really fast. I'll be right back, I promise. Please don't try to move." The dog blinked slowly, a vow exchanged without words. Emma turned, took one step, then stopped and looked back. The mother was watching, not with panic, not with fear, with trust. Tears blurred Emma's vision as she ran. She crashed through the underbrush branches, tugging at her arms and legs, the puppy pressed tight against her pounding heart. Behind her, she thought she heard a faint whine, but she didn't dare stop. She couldn't risk seeing those amber eyes go still. "Hold on," she whispered into the puppy's fur. "Hold on, Mama. I'm coming back." Every step she took marked the beginning of something vast and irreversible. She didn't know it then, but this was the day her childhood ended, the day hope began. Emma burst through the cabin door, breath-ragged arms wrapped tight around the puppy. Her voice was high and desperate. "Grandma, there's a dog she's hurt. She gave me her baby." Rose Henderson didn't ask questions. She'd lived too long in the mountains not to recognize the sound of something urgent. She took one look at Emma's tear-streaked face and the shivering skeletal pup in her arms, and her instincts kicked in like muscle memory. Where she asked already, grabbing towels, water, the emergency kit. By the creek, Emma panted. "Past the big rocks, she's in a trap. It's bad. There's so much blood." Rose cursed under her breath. "Damn poachers," she muttered, packing antiseptic and gloves. "You said she gave you the puppy." Emma nodded, clutching the pup tighter. "She looked at me and she cried." Rose stopped. Her eyes met Emma's, searching for something. "She trusted you," she said quietly. "That means everything." They drove fast. Rose's old Jeep roared down the mountain trail. As Emma guided them, her heart in her throat, the entire way. She kept whispering to the puppy, now nestled in a towel-lined box. "We're coming back for her. We promised." When they reached the clearing, Emma leapt out first, half terrified of what she might find. But hope, though they didn't know her name yet, was still there, still breathing. The purple sweater soaked through the mangled paw, wrapped in bloody wool. Her eyes flicked open when Emma called her name, and her tail thumped weakly. "She's alive," Emma cried, tears of relief flooding her face. Dr. Mitchell's truck pulled up moments later, gravel crunching under tires. He took one look and said in a stunned voice, "That's a military working dog. Tattooed ear. She's a veteran." With quiet reverence, he sedated her just enough to lift her safely. Emma insisted on holding the puppy Scout, the name forming in her mind, like breath, as the mother was gently loaded into the truck. Hope's eyes never left them, not even as the forest receded in the mirror. The drive to Dr. Mitchell's clinic felt endless. Emma sat in the back of the truck, one hand resting on Scout's trembling body, the other gently stroking Hope's head. The dog's breathing was shallow but steady, her muzzle twitching each time Scout whimpered. Even sedated, her ears turned toward her pup's cries. She's been in that trap for over a week, Dr. Mitchell said grimly. Maybe more. And she's starving. All her energy went into keeping him alive. Emma didn't respond. She just nodded, clutching Scout tighter. She had never felt so helpless, and yet so determined. At the clinic, the fluorescent lights made everything look worse. Hope's ribs jutted like broken branches beneath her fur. Her paw, raw, infected, torn, made Rose go pale. Emma wouldn't let go of the puppy. Not for a second. She's strong, Mitchell muttered. But this infection, I won't lie to you, it's bad. Can you save her? Emma's voice cracked with the weight of the question. He glanced between the girl, the pup, and the broken warrior on the table. I'll try. The next hours passed in fragments, antibiotics, ifoylines, stitches. Emma learned to bottle feed Scout with trembling hands, his tiny tongue flicking greedily, hiccuping from hunger. When he slept, she peeked into the recovery room where Hope lay motionless, hooked to machines that beeped and glowed. On the third day, her tail wagged. Just once. Just enough. She's awake, Dr. Mitchell said that morning, a rare smile breaking across his face. Hope's eyes opened slowly, blinking against the light. Emma held Scout in her arms, stepped forward, and watched as the dog's entire body shifted. Her ears perked, her tail moved, and tears filled her eyes again. She'd made it, because of an 8-year-old girl who ran, because she believed someone would come back, and someone did. Hope's healing wasn't swift, but it was steady. Emma spent every waking hour in the clinic that summer, feeding Scout, changing Hope's bandages, whispering secrets into those amber ears. Dr. Mitchell had never seen anything like it, a bond so deep it defied explanation. You know, he said one afternoon, watching Emma teach Scout to walk across a towel-strewn floor, I've treated hundreds of animals. But this is something rare. That dog shouldn't trust anyone after what she's been through. And yet, she trusts you completely. Emma glanced at Hope, who was watching her with calm, wise eyes. Maybe she knows I'd never hurt her. Maybe, Mitchell replied. Or maybe she saw something in you. Hope's paw remained damaged, but functional. Against the odds, the leg was saved, though she would always limp. Emma didn't care. The scars were part of her story, now visible reminders of what had been endured and survived. Then came the revelation. Mitchell had traced the tattoo inside Hope's ear. She wasn't just a stray. She was a decorated military working dog, K9 Sergeant Hope, who had served 3 tours overseas. She'd gone missing 6 months earlier, during a family camping trip after retirement. Pregnant, forgotten, surviving the impossible. Emma felt a pang of grief when Mitchell said, her old family's in Denver. They were devastated when she vanished. But they can't take her back. Not with her condition. Not where they live now. A silence fell. They asked, Mitchell continued carefully, if the family who saved her might want to keep her. Emma's heart soared and then sank. But I don't live here full time. Only in the summers. And that's when Grandma Rose made the call. From the landline in the kitchen, her voice was firm, immovable. The child saved 2 lives, she told Emma's parents. She showed more courage and compassion at 8 than most do in a lifetime. The least we can do is let her finish what she started. And miraculously they agreed. Hope and Scout stayed, and every winter break, every summer. So did Emma. The cabin became their sanctuary. Scout grew strong and playful, his once frail frame filling out with each week. Hope regained her strength too, though the limp never left. She didn't need to run anymore. Her job now was to watch, to guide, to rest. She'd earned that peace. Every summer, Emma returned, not just to visit, but to belong. The porch became their gathering place. Grandma Rose, knitting, Emma reading veterinary textbooks. Hope curled in the sun, with Scout snoozing against her side. When Emma was 15, Hope stopped climbing the stairs. When she was 20, Hope stopped checking the perimeter each night. At 24, Emma graduated veterinary school with honors. Her admission essay about a dog who entrusted her child to a little girl with pigtails had moved the entire committee. Years passed. Scout eventually faded old age, catching up to the pup, who once fit in her arms. Hope followed not long after. She passed beneath the pines curled at Emma's feet, just as she had lived, loyal, gentle, quietly brave. Emma had buried them in the clearing by the cabin side by side beneath a wooden cross she carved herself. Now all those years later, standing at that same spot, she whispered into the wind, "I didn't just save you. You saved me too." The forest hadn't changed, but Emma had. She stood before the grave, 32 now, a veterinarian with a clinic offer, waiting in Denver, a future measured in salary and surgical stats. Yet here, amid pine needles and silence, none of that mattered. Her phone buzzed again. Dr. Martinez. A prestigious partnership, an offer she hadn't answered. She didn't pick up. Instead, she sat on the old bench beside the cross installed by her own hands years ago and waited. For clarity, for permission, for something she couldn't quite name. Rose arrived without needing to be called. As always. "They say you're having one of your spells," she said gently, settling beside her. "But I know better." Emma laughed, dry and small. "They don't understand, Grandma. Hope wasn't just a rescue. She was everything. She chose me, and you chose her," Rose said. "Every year you came back, every letter you wrote from college. That dog didn't need medals. She needed peace. And you gave her that." Emma wiped her eyes. "But I keep thinking, did I do enough? Was she happy?" "Did you see her on that porch?" Rose asked. "Did you see how she watched you work in the garden? How she slept by your bed, even when her joints ached? That dog knew peace, Emma." Probably for the first time in her life. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of pine and distant rain. "You don't have to prove anything anymore," Rose whispered. "But maybe it's time to come full circle. That old vet clinic in town's been empty for years." Emma blinked. "You think I should stay? I think you already have." Emma stared at the clearing, at the trees that had once watched a desperate mother crawl forward with a broken paw and unshakable purpose. What if the clinic wasn't just a new chapter? What if it was a tribute? A wildlife rehabilitation center, she murmured, named after Hope and Scout. A place for second chances for animals. And maybe for people too. Rose's smile deepened. Now that sounds like purpose. A monarch butterfly danced through the air and landed gently on the grave marker. Its wings opened and closed, a slow heartbeat. Then it lifted, circled Emma, once, twice, and disappeared into the trees. Emma watched it go, breath caught. Not a sign exactly, but maybe a reminder that transformation was real, that staying still was just another kind of trap. She stood slowly. "I need to make some calls." Rose squeezed her hand. "I'll put on coffee. Feels like it's going to be a long afternoon." Emma turned toward the path, the trees parting like old friends welcoming her home. For the first time in years, the future didn't feel like a compromise. It felt like a promise. Not to anyone else, but to the girl she'd been, and to the dog who had believed in her before she believed in herself. The manila folder was heavier than it should have been. Emma opened it in the soft light of the cabin's study, expecting old veterinary notes, but what she found stole her breath. Hope's full military dossier. Letters, photos, commendations. There she was, younger, stronger, wearing a tactical vest, and standing beside her handler, Staff Sergeant James Cooper. Her eyes in the photo were unmistakable, those same amber depths Emma had looked into as a child, except now she could see the soldier in them too. A citation detailed an incident in Kandahar. Hope had detected an IED and saved 6 soldiers' lives, despite taking shrapnel to the shoulder. She'd continued working until medevac arrived. Emma touched the page, tears welling. There was more. A handwritten letter yellowed with time. The ink faded, but strong. If you're reading this, it means you have my dog. Her name is Hope. She saved me 13 times, some from bombs, most from the darkness. She loves peanut butter, hates thunderstorms, sleeps in a circle but always checks the room first. If she trusts you, she'll bring you her red rubber ball. Please, give her peace. She's earned it. Jim Cooper. Emma's hands trembled. The red ball. She remembered it, the one Hope used to nudge toward her on summer evenings. The one Scout would steal, prompting the only argument Hope ever started. She looked down and saw it again, now resting in the file, cracked and worn. Dr. Mitchell must have saved it. All these years, she'd thought she'd been the rescuer. But Hope had survived war, wilderness, motherhood, and loss, and still chosen to trust a little girl with everything she had left. And in doing so, she had rescued Emma in return. Emma walked out to the clearing one last time, the red rubber ball cradled in her palms. The marker stood quiet beneath the trees, Scout's collar still looped gently around its base. She knelt. Her voice was steady now. I know who you were, Hope. Not just a stray, not just a mother, a soldier, a hero, a protector. And you chose me. She placed the ball beside the collar, a tribute not of mourning, but of honor. I promise your story won't be forgotten. Not the pain, not the courage, not the trust. A breeze stirred the pines, soft and low, like breath through fur. Emma stood, shoulders lighter, the ache in her chest, no longer just grief, but reverence. Tomorrow, the Hope and Scout Memorial Rehabilitation Center would open its doors. A clinic for wounded animals, a sanctuary for broken things learning to heal. But tonight she returned to the cabin where Grandma Rose waited, with dinner warmth and love that had made everything possible. As she reached the porch, she whispered to the trees, "Thank you for teaching me how to come home." And somewhere deep in the forest, the wind answered,